Welcome to Wilmington, the largest city in the state of Delaware and the oldest European settlement in the Delaware River Valley. This city spent a good portion of its history under European rule, experiencing establishments from different Western European colonies. It eventually broke free from the shadows of Europe and its closest neighbor in the Delaware River Valley, the city of Philadelphia. I'm Jose in Wilmington, Delaware, ready to explore the former New Sweden. On this tour, we'll travel through Wilmington's past and learn about its European history, its settlements, and the lasting impact to the modern city. We'll explore some of Wilmington's unique outdoor attractions, a city surrounded by landmarks, beautiful gardens, and a series of important rivers which further elevates Delaware's interesting geography. So let's go on tour and explore the city of Wilmington. Wilmington, Delaware, a city built on the remains of the first Swedish and Finnish settlements found across North America. The city was originally inhabited by the Lenape Native Americans, then taken over by Peter Minuit to establish the New Netherlands colony. Years later, Minuit made arrangements for a Swedish settlement in the New World. There was a lot of turnover between the European states trying to claim a piece to this newfound world. When the British took the colony from the Dutch, William Penn's strong Quaker influence had spread throughout the area. William Penn would go on to become the father of Wilmington and Philadelphia, marking them as the most important settlements to their respective territories. I opened my book to begin this story of Wilmington. Welcome to the downtown of Wilmington. Wilmington's past is filled with moments of hope, as well as turbulence, with residents of the city becoming leaders of change. And one of those leaders was Bishop Peter Spencer, who along with his wife Anne, led the Black church movement. A religious leader born into slavery, yet having accomplished the creation of 31 churches and schools throughout his lifetime. But when you venture outside of the business district, you begin to feel the allure of a grander history in the atmosphere. And that history travels to all corners of the city, including its distinct neighborhoods, which still feel like the colonial territory. Throughout the neighborhoods of Wilmington, we can still see the influence of the European colonies. The neighborhoods have this unique architecture that takes us back to the early days of America. The story leads us to the Trinity Vicinity, a neighborhood that dates back to the mid-1800s, with architectural stylings of Italian, French, and neoclassical revival. This neighborhood had a strong sense of community, where previous generations bonded over the living spaces. And I approached a little free library to dig through the stories of the city. The history of this neighborhood becomes the larger narrative of Wilmington. It's a thriving community, but in the 1960s to 70s, it was crippled by the national riots. Riots we've experienced in places like Newark, New Jersey. In the case of Wilmington, it was the city with the longest federal occupation. National Guards patrolled the streets for almost a year, something that hadn't occurred in America since the Civil War. But our tour leads us to the Old Swedes Historic Site, the other iconic story to Wilmington's past. This is what remains from the original Swedish settlement, It's part of a Swedish, Finnish, and Lenape community. It acted as a burial ground when Wilmington was still under the name of Fort Christina. It's named after the Queen of Sweden. It's one of the oldest areas in all of Delaware. Looking back at this postcard of the old Swedes church, it's been a landmark for many generations. The first Finnish and Swedish settlers established this church in the 1600s. It witnessed the transformation of a land go from unknown territory to the giant country it would evolve into. And next to the church is the Henriksen House, a preserved Swedish home showing the past of these settlers. As we return to the pages of the book, I take a break along the riverfront to simply soak in all the details of the city. Along the river, we capture the scenery of rowers passing by. Returning to the story leads us to another era of Wilmington and the narrative of America, where Titans began to leave their mark on the development of this new nation, names that became synonymous with the state of Delaware, leaving behind mansions as a lasting imprint. And this mansion has since been converted into a museum. DuPont is the first family of Delaware. It's a name that dates back to the early 1800s. It can be found all across the state. Many of the amazing gardens in Wilmington can tie back to one of the members of the family. The homes of icons. Whether visiting Winterthur or Nemours Mansion, you're in for an exquisite surprise. And we walk through the doors that lead to the gardens, becoming mesmerized with the architecture. This estate is 1,000 acres of streams, meadows, and forests, showcasing the wealth the DuPont family had amassed. Henry Francis DuPont was the owner of this estate and responsible for developing its uncanny beauty. A horticulturist and antiques collector, this estate became the world's premier museum for American furniture and decorative arts. Heading to the pond, you can witness the extravagant size of the mansion. The mansion is the fourth largest house in America, containing over 96,000 square feet of floor space, 175 rooms, and over 85,000 items that are more than 100 years old. Walking up the steps, we're greeted with details of beauty, with this stunning sculpture containing a sundial. The property exchanged hands across several DuPont family members, from the first DuPont industrialist, E.I. DuPont, who started the gunpowder company, to his daughter, Evelina Gabrielle, and eventually his great-great-grandson, Henry Francis. The fish pond is an engaging and quiet escape to spend an afternoon. As an artist, I love the little details of this mansion's architecture, where I observe and just contemplate the stunning design. I feel like I'm in a fairy tale right now. Look at this. Of course, I'm very curious. I'm gonna go in. Oh my gosh. The little kid seats. Well, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna fit in here. But this is so neat. Our adventures has taken us to all kinds of places, from the towering skyscrapers of New York City to the farmlands of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and even the grounds of America's capital in Washington, D.C. But none have been as intriguing as the enchanted woods in the Winterthur Museum. The story of these enchanted lands reads as follows. It was created by fairies, elves, and trolls, thus the size of the chairs in this treehouse. This segment of the estate was added to the mansion at a time when most child-friendly gardens had become plastic playgrounds and fast food restaurants. It's an escape for children to let their imaginations come alive.
You know, I've always been curious to see a real-life fairy tale home. It's a lot smaller than I expected.
As the kid in us slowly drifts away, fading back to the real world, we escape the pages of our story and return to the riverfront. Giving a break to this unique experience, I walk around an empty Constitution Yards before it becomes an exciting nightlife venue. Back in the pages of our story is our next destination, the Rockford Park and Rockford Tower. The Rockford Tower was constructed during the Industrial Revolution. All these areas were lined up with quarries and mills. The workers lived close by, like many industrial remains we've seen across the nation. To better improve the health of these overworked laborers, American officials began constructing green spaces across cities. And the Rockford Park opened in 1889, created by donations from the DuPont and Bancroft families. The tower was constructed as an observatory to view the beautiful Brandywine Creek nearby. In the highlands of Wilmington is the recreational park of Rockford, a gift to the city by William Poole Bancroft, who also convinced the DuPont family to support his idea. This is one of the oldest parks in Wilmington. Bancroft was instrumental to the development of other parks across the state of Delaware, and even became a primary sponsor for the creation of Delaware's Board of Parks Commissioners. And this 75-foot stone tower debuted in 1901 as a water and observation tower. The Rockford Tower served the Wilmington residents as a breakpoint from their industrial surroundings. The design of the tower contains blue Brandywine rocks quarried from the banks of the river. And from below, you can see the stunning beauty of its design and immense height. It makes it the focal point of the park. So the observation deck is closed, but I just wanted to stand under the tower to get the full scale of its size. We just made it to the clock. The steps by the park take us on a route to the Brandywine River. The Brandywine Creek is a tributary of the Christina River, where the mouth of the river is in Wilmington, at the site of the former New Sweden colony. And the sound of visitors brings life to this part of the city. The river played an important role during the American Revolution, as the Battle of Brandywine was fought in the extended stem by Chadsford, Pennsylvania. Kicking off the changing seasons and warmer weather, families, fishermen, and anyone looking for a retreat fill up the waters. The 20.5-mile stem became the industrial engine to power the DuPont gunpowder and flour mills. Navigating to the connecting Delaware River allowed for manufacturing to extend to the Atlantic Ocean. And I stand at the edges to once again admire the beauty of Delaware's outdoors. The Brandywine Creek flows through Brandywine Park, another idea involving Frederick Law Olmsted, designer of famous parks like Prospect in Brooklyn, Central Park, and Naog Park in Scranton. But this park serves a larger purpose to the community, as we see the residents basking in the park's waters. The Brandywine watershed is home to over 300,000 people, as it flows in Wilmington to meet the tidal Christina River. These rapid waters supplies the drinking water to the city and many other areas in Newcastle County. Over 30 million gallons are used daily for commercial, industrial, and residential use. As we enter the Rose Garden, we marvel at the beauty of Brandywine Park. It's the largest urban park in Delaware, spanning 178 acres. Established in 1886 during the natural landscape movement that also gave life to New York's Central Park. The park stretches along a 1-mile trail of the Brandywine River. The larger areas of the park also contains the only zoo found in the state of Delaware. And at the heart of the park is the Josephine Fountain, surrounded by Japanese cherry blossoms, donated to the city by Josephine's grieving husband, Ernest Smith. The design of the fountain was inspired by a fountain in Villa Petrea in Florence, Italy, giving the marble structure that delightful Italian elegance. As we close off the last chapters to our story, I take my book and head to one of the most important areas of the riverfront, an impactful element of history scattered throughout the cities and towns of America. The Winds of Freedom. As sunset begins to darken the skies, we find ourselves at the Tubman Garrett Riverfront, a park dedicated to Harriet Tubman and Thomas Garrett, leaders of the Underground Railroad. I slowly approach the fascinating memorial at the center of the park, visually studying the design of such a powerful monument. Here lies a plaque containing the biography of Harriet Tubman, the revolutionary leader who escaped slavery and rescued over 70 other enslaved people through a network of anti-slavery activists, safe houses, and passages called the Underground Railroad. Harriet continued to be a political champion, also playing a prominent role during the women's suffrage. On the other side is Thomas Garrett, who many call the Moses of the African American community. Garrett was one of the leaders of the Underground Railroad, who helped over 2,700 enslaved African Americans to freedom. At the time of Garrett's passing, the African American community carried his casket on their shoulders throughout the streets of Wilmington to his final resting place. As this legendary tour comes to a close, I take a final stroll across the riverfront, looking back at everything we've learned from the city, while walking on a neatly maintained trail, and see the residents enjoying their evening. With all its influences and stories, Wilmington not only becomes the largest city in Delaware, but it becomes one of the most fascinating to experience. The beauty of the riverfront pier, city visitors, and boats traveling along the river bring the city to life, and provide ample reason why so many European territories fought to maintain this colony, an American staple to the first state. So looking back at our story of legends, William Penn completely understood the benefits of having Philadelphia and Wilmington become the county seats for their territories, two cities with similar traits that became dominant chess pieces to expand travel to the New World.
Wilmington is an interesting segment to Delaware's story, a history of America's earliest European settlements, filled with beautiful pieces of nature, a unique city construct that gives it so much personality to distinguish it from its closest peer in Philadelphia. Wilmington is a city that experienced all elements from America's story, from its birth to industrial growth and downfall, a vibrancy of becoming a modern city and being able to create its own entry in the great storybook of the New World. I'm Jose, and I thank you for joining me on this giant tour of Wilmington. If you like what you've seen today, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share. If you want to see more in the state of Delaware, please stay tuned for the following video. Until next time.